What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. Here to talk some March Madness is me and my co-host, Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's going on, Kyle? I'm excited to get into this Midwest region here because there's a lot of intriguing games.
Oh, we're going the West, so we're hitting the West region. We are recording separate videos, the South, the East, the Midwest, and now the West. So if you missed any of those, make sure you go back, make sure you check those out, get our thoughts on all of those regions. We're trying to run through them. We're trying to give you some ideas on some of our betting favorites, some of the teams to avoid, all that good stuff. But Brian, let's start. This is the Gonzaga region. This is a team that has been the number one team that has not lost all year long. There's a history of 4 teams that have made it all the way to the or have entered the tournament as an undefeated team. Indiana State, which made it to the championship game and lost. That was Larry Bird versus Magic. UNLV, I think they got to they lost in the Final Four against Duke. Wichita State lost in the second round to Kentucky. And then Kentucky in 2014 with I think that wasn't that was the Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, that team end up losing to Wisconsin in the final. So we have 4 teams that have done it before, and all 4 of those teams have not won the championship. Does Gonzaga buck the trend? Is this a team that we should just be penciling all the way to the championship game? Where are you at with them?
I think just as the odds makers have made it, I think they are the most likely of all the number ones to win the NCAA tournament. They don't really have holes other than the possibility of being a little bit. They have a lack of depth inside. If Drew Timme were to get hurt or to get in foul trouble in any game against somebody who has a big guy, I think they're in trouble. But of their first few opponents leading into what may possibly be an Elite 8 matchup against Iowa with Garza, I don't see Gonzaga hitting any opponents that have any shot at beating them.
Yeah, and there's the odds for you all to check out. -210 to make the Final Four. It tells you how big of a favorite they are. They really got a cakewalk in this region. I don't know that, even Iowa. I don't know. I don't see it with I don't see it with Iowa. Luka Garza's good, but are they really maybe I'm a little biased, but
I think they're too dependent on the 3.
Yeah. But are they better than Illinois, Michigan, or Ohio State?
Iowa?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so if they're the 4th best team in the Big Ten, and I know the Big Ten's great this year, but they're not beating Gonzaga. And I don't think they they, like you mentioned, they're dependent on the 3. So if things go well and they're hitting threes and they're playing through Luka Garza, can they beat Gonzaga? Sure. Do they have the horses to do it? Sure. But it really feels like they'd have to have a special game for it to be able to happen. And then beyond them, I think Virginia would be the most interesting matchup just because of what they can do defensively. And I think Tony Bennett could scheme it up where they would be able to do enough to keep Gonzaga off their game. But I don't know that any other team in this division or in this region rather can really go to toe and actually beat them. And I think that's a big part of why they're huge favorites.
Yeah, and just also on that note, when you look at the 3 and the 4 seed, with Virginia being the 4 seed and Kansas being the 3 seed, these are both teams that have COVID issues leading into the tournament. So much so for Virginia that they can't even practice until Friday, the day before they play their game against Ohio, who, they better watch out because they got a kid down there at guard, Preston Williams, I believe his name is. That guy's a baller. If I was watching that MAC tournament and that kid was taking over games, and that's something that, Virginia, they're not really big on the perimeter with T.H. Clark out there, 5 foot nothing. Who's he? He can't guard that kid. So Virginia is going to have a tough go of it early. And I, like you said, I do think they could give Gonzaga issues if they were healthy and they made it that far. But leading up to that, I just don't see who's going to defend Jalen Suggs. Corey Kispert is shooting on another level. Drew Timme has all the tools of the trade. His tool belt is full down low. So this team is loaded. This Zags team.
Yeah, and Ohio, I think, is going to be a popular pick as a 13-4 upset. The line opened at +10. It's now down to 7.5. 99% of the money, despite 29% of the bets, are on Ohio. So that tells you where that's at. If not Virginia, is there a team you think that could give Kansas or give Gonzaga a run for their money, or give them a challenge, make them sweat, or should we just pencil them into the Final Four and not worry about it?
I mean, I feel like Gonzaga, of all of the number ones, they pretty much have a clear shot to the Final Four. But okay. I know people are going to pick this as an upset, as it happens almost every year. A 12 beating a 5, UC Santa Barbara over Creighton, but this Creighton team, they can shoot the lights out. If they're hitting their threes, they have a guy down there, Mitch Bollock, who is probably right up there with Corey Kispert in terms of his ability to make the 3-point shot. And if Creighton is hitting on all cylinders, they're able to run their offense and they're hitting their shots, I think in an offensive battle, they could potentially keep up with Gonzaga. And if there was, say, an injury or turnover issues or something like that, they could be a surprise matchup problem for the Zags.
Yeah. I think that's a good call. But I think it says so much about this region, right? That there's so many question marks and ifs and what maybe, and if they can be healthy. And
exactly,
Kansas isn't the normal Kansas that we usually see.
I never bet Kansas. Let's just get this out of the way. Kansas for me is like is the cancer of NCAA tournament picks.
And I want to be excited about Oklahoma. I think they have some interesting pieces, but I don't know if they can quite put it together. And, we saw it at spurts, but even, going up against teams like Texas and Oklahoma State and they West Virginia, they had issues and they couldn't quite get there. So to expect them to go toe to toe with Kansas, I think is a bridge too far. As you mentioned, I think Creighton is interesting. I think Virginia could be interesting. Beyond them, I don't think any of these teams really have a shot.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are liking Oregon, which like they were saying during the selection Sunday, they're pretty underseeded because they had a lot of injuries and they've played like a handful of games with all their starters. They're their top 5 scorers this season, so I do think that they are a dangerous team. But Gonzaga is on another plane of existence this season, very similar to the way that we saw Virginia the previous NCAA tournament that was completed, and then Villanova the year before that. They are the clear-cut best team in college.
Well, and I think that sets up, we'll run through some of our favorites for this region, but favorite team to bet on could be Oregon for me. If you look at that 7-10 matchup against VCU, it's not the same Shaka Smart VCU team. They're good, but they're not the same. And then I like that matchup with Oregon against Kansas because we just fade Kansas. And do well there. So yeah, I think Oregon could be a team where, or I guess they'd have to play Iowa first, but I don't know. Iowa doesn't do anything for me. Like I think can Oregon get past VCU, get past Iowa, and then play in theory play Kansas in the Sweet 16 and beat them? I think that's
totally probable. I think Iowa is probably, I don't want to say they're the most overrated number 2 in this bracket, but having watched a ton of Big Ten play, they don't really do anything on defense. I mean, Jordan Bohannon, the guy's an absolute great shooter, but he can't guard anything. I mean, Luka Garza, he got absolutely dominated by Hunter Dickinson. So, but he's the only guy that's done that to Garza. And then it'll really be predicated on how healthy is Joe Wieskamp and also CJ Frederick for the Hawkeyes as to whether or not they can make a run. If neither of those guys are at 100%, they could be ousted by Oregon.
So Oregon is 4-1 to make the Sweet 16. I kind of like that as a bet. Although if you bet the money line against VCU and then against Iowa and then against Kansas and just keep rolling it over, I feel like you get better than 4-1 odds. So maybe that's another way to attack it, as they are currently 5.5-point favorites. So that is an interesting way to, if you like Oregon like I do, that could be interesting. Is there any other teams that you're going to be targeting to kind of make a run or make some noise in the first couple matchups?
So I think that matchup for me is I'm going back to the 11-6 as kind of like my new favorite position to be betting and or picking upsets here. I think that Drake will dispatch Wichita pretty handily. Drake is a damn good offensive team, and I think that Drake could pull the upset against a USC team which is led by freshman Evan Mobley in a tournament where I've been telling all my friends this is going to be this tournament more than any other is going to be predicated on upperclassmen and guys with experience in situations like this and having been through difficult tournaments, difficult matchups and stuff like that. And I just think that USC's youth is going to show up in a matchup against Drake, and Drake is going to take it.
Yeah. And I was when I was doing the odds earlier, like Drake's odds were considerably shorter than I thought they would be, considering what the other teams in that region where their odds were set up. So I thought that was interesting. So yeah, Drake is another team. Like they're 30-1 to make the Final Four. I think that says a lot about them and where they're at, and I think that could be a interesting team to keep an eye on if they can get past that play-in game. But I always worry about those play-in teams just because they have that one extra game. It always seems to wear them down just enough. And when you're a team like Drake and you need everything to kind of go right, it can be a little bit of a challenge. So that is kind of interesting. Who comes out of the West? Is it Gonzaga?
Yeah, I just don't see anybody beating Gonzaga. So for me, it's the Zags.
Yeah, I can't. I wish there was a better 2 or 3 or even a 4 seed that could do something interesting that would make me think maybe they can give Gonzaga a run for their money. It always feels like I feel this Gonzaga team feels different and their region feels really different. Usually they're in a region with maybe an underseeded team or a team that can hit a ton of threes, or something happens and Gonzaga kind of falls apart and it doesn't go well for them, and then they end up getting bounced early. But I think this is a year they can make a serious run. They get to a Final Four, maybe even a championship. I don't know if they'll win it all, but maybe they should get darn close. Is there a team you're fading in this region?
Oh man,
I mean, we just fade Kansas and call it good.
I mean, I think Kansas has all the talent in the world, but there's just something about Bill Self when he has these teams, they just never show up. I mean, yeah, he's won a national championship, but like even that first time when they played my Wolverines in 2013, I mean, they were the decided favorite, 11-point lead with like 1:10 to go, and they still choke it. So yeah. I think Kansas is my favorite in this region, even with Virginia having more issues. I think Virginia's defense is something that travels.
Yeah, I don't like, what does Kansas do exceptionally well? Like, is there one thing they do really well? I feel like they don't have that one stud that they've had. Like, they don't have an Embiid or a Wiggins. They don't have a Kirk Heinrich, Nick Collison combo. Like, they just don't have that elite talent that makes me go, oh, this team could make a serious run.
And their superstar freshman, Jalen Wilson, he's going to miss at least the first game against Eastern Washington and likely the entire weekend. So you're looking at a potential second round matchup for Kansas going up against, a USC or a Drake or even a Wichita State. I mean, all three of those teams offer the potential to upset Kansas with what they can bring to the table.
Yeah, and right now Eastern Washington's getting 59% of the bets and 59% of the money against Kansas as a 10.5-point underdog. So I don't hate taking a shot there either. All right, Brian Twining, we are. This is number 3 of 4. Make sure you go back and check out other ones that you may have missed to get yourself ready for the bracket. We're also going to be doing a bracket challenge, so the link will be in the description. Go join that. Come compete. We're going to try and get some prizes, but we'll see what we can finagle together. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to y'all next time.